Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha was born on August 26, 1819, at Schloss Rosenau in the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, now in Bavaria, Germany. He was the second son of Ernest I, Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, and his first wife, Princess Louise of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg. Prince Albert and his older brother, Ernest II, were raised in a well-educated environment, emphasizing languages, the arts, and sciences. Despite their parents' troubled marriage and eventual separation, Albert's upbringing emphasized duty, responsibility, and service. His education, primarily conducted in Coburg and Brussels, laid the foundation for his later life as an intellectual and reformer. His tutors and educators ensured Albert developed strong interests in philosophy, music, and the natural sciences. Albert's early exposure to European politics and diplomacy was crucial, especially since his family maintained close connections to royal houses across Europe. Albert was particularly influenced by Baron Christian Friedrich von Stockmar, a family advisor who would later play a key role in his relationship with Queen Victoria. Albert first met his future wife, Queen Victoria, when they were both teenagers. Victoria, who was also his first cousin, their mothers were sisters, had been queen since 1837. In 1839, Albert visited England again, and the young Queen Victoria, smitten by his charm and good looks, proposed to him. They married on February 10, 1840, in the Chapel Royal at St. James's Palace in London. Their marriage was a happy and loving one, despite the challenges and adjustments that came with Albert's new role. At first, Albert faced resistance from British society, which was skeptical of a German prince. He did not initially have any formal position of power, which frustrated him, but he gradually gained influence in the court and country as Victoria grew to rely on him deeply, both in her personal life and in political matters. Albert and Victoria had 9 children together: Victoria, Albert Edward, later Edward VII, Alice, Alfred, Helena, Louise, Arthur, Leopold, and Beatrice. These children married into many European royal families, earning Victoria the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. Prince Albert was not content with being a passive figurehead. From early in his marriage, he sought ways to exercise influence, especially as Queen Victoria entrusted him with more political responsibility. He became one of her closest advisors, often guiding her in matters of state. Over time, he took on more administrative tasks and became involved in the monarchy's decision-making. One of Albert's most notable contributions was his role in reshaping the British monarchy's image. He emphasized moral standards and public responsibility, distancing the royal family from the scandals and excesses of previous reigns. He believed that the monarchy should act as a symbol of national unity and integrity. Albert was deeply interested in education and social reform. His intellectual curiosity drove him to support causes that sought to improve the welfare of the British public. He was a patron of the arts, sciences, and industry, and he believed that technological progress could improve society. Albert played an instrumental role in the creation of the Great Exhibition of 1851, which was held in the Crystal Palace in London's Hyde Park. The exhibition was a showcase for British industrial and technological prowess, highlighting innovations from around the world. It was a resounding success and became a symbol of the Victorian era's progress and optimism. Albert also worked on improving education in Britain, believing that education was a means to reduce crime and poverty. He was involved in the establishment of several institutions that would later become prestigious, including the Royal College of Music, Imperial College London, and Victoria and Albert Museum. Albert's progressive views on issues such as public health, urban planning, and even international diplomacy often put him ahead of his time. He was involved in advocating for sanitation reforms and better living conditions for the poor in London. He believed that Britain's industrial might should be used to benefit society at large, not just the wealthy elite. Although Prince Albert was not allowed to hold official political office, he was actively involved in government matters behind the scenes. Queen Victoria relied heavily on Albert's judgment and often allowed him to act on her behalf in political dealings, especially during times of stress or illness. Albert became an influential figure in foreign affairs, using his diplomatic skills to mediate in conflicts such as the Anglo-French relations and the Schleswig-Holstein question, a territorial dispute between Denmark and the German states. Albert was also instrumental in improving the British monarchy's relations with other European nations, particularly Germany, from which he hailed. His correspondence and diplomacy helped avoid conflicts and promote peace, even if his influence wasn't always acknowledged publicly. Prince Albert's contributions were vast, and his progressive ideals left an enduring legacy on British society. Some of his most notable achievements include: Albert supported the advancement of science, technology, and education in Britain. He helped establish several cultural and educational institutions, including the Royal Albert Hall, named in his honor after his death, and the Victoria and Albert Museum. He also influenced the development of South Kensington, which became known as Albertopolis because of his involvement in its planning. Albert's crowning achievement in the public sphere, the Great Exhibition of 1851, was a pioneering international event. It was visited by over 6 million people and demonstrated Britain's leadership in industry and technology. Albert was passionate about improving living conditions in the crowded cities. He was a strong advocate for urban planning and sanitation reforms, which led to significant improvements in public health. Albert supported various charities and initiatives aimed at reducing poverty and crime. Albert's diplomatic skills helped Britain navigate through several political crises in Europe. He is credited with helping to avert a major war during the Trent Affair in 1861, when tensions rose between Britain and the United States during the American Civil War. Albert helped set a moral tone for the monarchy during the Victorian era. He and Queen Victoria promoted values of family, duty, and service, and they sought to present the royal family as role models for British society. Albert had a deep love for the arts and sciences. He was an accomplished musician, playing the piano and organ, and composed several works of his own. He was also an amateur scientist, deeply fascinated by the latest developments in technology and agriculture. His estate at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight was not only a family home but also a laboratory where he experimented with farming techniques and machinery. Albert was particularly fond of architecture and design. He took an active role in designing Osborne House and oversaw the renovations of Windsor Castle, both of which reflected his taste for simplicity and functionality, combined with elements of Italian Renaissance and classical architecture. Despite his many achievements, Prince Albert's health began to decline in the late 1850s. He had always been prone to illness, and his growing workload and stress took a toll on his body. In 1861, Albert was deeply troubled by the prospect of war between Britain and the United States, as well as family disputes. These worries weakened his already fragile health. In November 1861, Albert became severely ill, likely with typhoid fever, although modern historians suggest he may have suffered from Crohn's disease or cancer. Despite treatment efforts, his condition worsened. Albert died at Windsor Castle on December 14, 1861, at the age of 42, leaving Queen Victoria devastated. Victoria entered a prolonged period of mourning, wearing black for the rest of her life. She withdrew from public life for years, though she continued to rule with the help of her advisors. Albert's death had a profound impact on the Queen and the nation, and numerous monuments and institutions were named in his honor. Prince Albert's legacy endures to this day. He transformed the role of the British monarchy and helped modernize British society through his advocacy of education, technology, and social reform. The institutions he supported and the causes he championed left a lasting mark on British culture and the monarchy. Today, his name is immortalized in places such as the Royal Albert Hall, Prince Albert Memorial, and Victoria and Albert Museum, testaments to his enduring influence.